Okay, we'll call to order the Board of Education meeting, December 12th at 7 o'clock. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll start with roll call.
Shane Centrella.
Shane Deschamps.
Renee Waldron.
Sandra Strubar.
Nora McCarsky.
Melanie Brady Shanley. Sharon Glynn.
Jeanette Broder.
Tori LeVeteran.
Jonathan Morehart.
Okay. Okay, item 3 on the agenda. As you know, we all have heard or read our board's attorney advice at our public special Board of Education meeting this past December 5th regarding the best possible path forward for our board regarding the officers' elections for the board. As part of that, December 5th, we had the attorney training on how to operate as a Board of Ed, as mandated every year in the state of Connecticut. And one of the things that she reminded us of is the importance of decorum. One of the things she said is that we're a symbolic force at our meetings, and our conduct on the board sends a message to not just our community, but to our kids. So our behavior should be engaged in productive conversation, dialogue, discourse, and that we work as a member, as a team. So while we don't have to take a third vote, our board attorney recommends that there's no legal risk in associating with taking a third vote. So what we have here before us on the item on the agenda is a discussion and possible action to rescind the second vote of the officers on November 14th. What this means is essentially two choices. We can discuss and do nothing, in which case the second vote stands and we move on to the business of tonight's Board of Education. Or we discuss and motion to rescind the second vote with the 2/3 voters present, that is 6 of 9 of us, to vote to rescind. And then we would move into voting procedure, in which case Melanie would moderate for the election of chair and then the election of secretary. That chair then would moderate for the election of committees and their membership. So, and at that point, we would move on to the board's business. So item 3 is discussion. And I open the floor to discussion and possible action or possible motion to rescind. So first, discussion.
All right, I'll kick it off. At the previous board meeting, our vote was taking place. I think the first vote was a win for Sandra Strubar as chairman. There was a motion to rescind the votes by Cheryl to have a second vote due to the fact that we had not signed our ballots, which is in our bylaws to do. We immediately took a second vote, and the decision was to have Nora as chairman. Now, this means that within 20 minutes' time or so, we had a board member flip-flop. Now, what had happened within those 20 or so minutes? I have here the FOIA text messages of the Board of Education. I will read them for the record. Tuesday at 7:16 p.m. We have Candy Althea Perez texting Shane Deschamps. What happened? Shane had answered, Sandra, I don't know how. Candy had answered, I think it was supposed to be an open vote, not a secret ballot. Shane responded, Mel gave us the ballots. I looked at the bylaws. Don't say anything. Just said ballots. Candy had answered, this is not good. Shane answered back, it should still be a good board. We still have the numbers to keep everything in check. Candy retorts, maybe, but the chair gets to represent the BOE at many places when you are not all there. She has a larger platform. Shane, I want to say that obviously I was the vote that flipped the chair, but moving forward, I do not appreciate the subtle pressure about the vote I decided to cast based on the conversations I've had with members, and really don't care about party lines on the Board of Education. So if this comes across as disrespectful, and that's where it ends for us. The next day we have Candy continue. I don't know who it was. I got a text telling me it was Sandra. You had a text from me at a rec meeting, so I was just asking you, as you had responded earlier. I thought it was done. Shane, I am not upset or anything, just have a lot going on personally, and took the text as some pressure. I know no one knew who it was officially. Candy, I understand you could have kept your vote, as I thought it was over. Board of Selectmen votes by the open raising of our hands. Shane, I apologize for the accusation. Candy, no need. I thought it was someone else. Candy's text to Nora. Steve just told me you are not chair. Isn't this supposed to be an open vote? Nora, revote. Signed ballot, I'm in. Candy, oh boy. Candy's text to Cheryl. Did I hear correctly that Candy is chair? Cheryl, yeah, I don't think Shane got the memo. He says he doesn't know how it happened. I texted him too. She responds, I have no idea then. Retorted again, isn't it supposed to be an open vote? Cheryl, no, it's paper, according to the bylaw. Cheryl, just recheck the bylaws. They require a signed ballot, or ballots to be signed. That was not done. Should I do a point of order on that and state it must be redone? Candy, yes, I think so. Nothing to lose. Cheryl, I'm going to do it. Vote flipped. Nora is chair. Candy, it will be challenged. P.S. I was texting Shane asking what happened. He didn't know. Cheryl, Sandra is secretary. Candy, I would still like to know who. Maybe it was Nora. Bylaws should change to an open vote. Cheryl, I doubt. She looks stunned. This is, hold on. Sandra texts to me, call for a receipt, remote. This was at 8:27. Sandra's text to Jay, did you just see that voodoo that just happened? Jay, mind-boggling. I would ask for a legal opinion, please. Better save the ballots. People are reaching out to me for answers. Sandra, Shane Deschamps voted for me the first time, but the second time, when he had to put his name on the ballot, I believe he switched. Call me in the morning, I have a lot to say. This is why we're all here tonight. This is the, the crux, I guess, of what had happened. And first of all, I just want to, in my personal opinion, none of the politicking should happen at the level it does at the Board of Education. That's not why we're here, but it obviously has. And I believe having a sitting selectman, chair of the Democrat Town Committee, and the spouse of the sitting chair texting all different members trying to collude to make another vote is pretty regrettable, to say the least. Secondly, Shane Deschamps, to his credit, had said, asked Candy not to pressure him, but nevertheless, he was pressured and he did change his vote. I find that to be regrettable as well. That's why I would like to ask Shane DeChamps. You know, Shane, we have here to bring back your text messages. I'll read this again. I wanted to say that obviously I was the vote that flipped the chair, but moving forward, I don't appreciate the subtle pressure. This shows that he was pressured, in my opinion, and the vote change shows that he changed his vote, in my opinion, due to that pressure. You know, I believe this shows a lack of morals, a lack of moral courage. I would like to ask you to resign your position. That's all I have to say tonight about this topic.
Well, I'm going to jump in here.
Any further discussion?
Yes, please. First of all, the text messages that Candy sent to those of us on the board she sent them to was required what happened. I thought it was an open vote. It was
You
a
have to
question,
pull up.
it was a question,
Cheryl, pull it closer.
it was a question as to the procedure. That's what it was. And then I checked the procedure, and we had done it incorrectly. And I had then did a point of order, and we, as a board, unanimously agreed that we had done it wrong. At that time, Sandra was chair, and she agreed, and we did a new vote. And the vote changed. And I believe Shane indicated, ultimately, why he changed the vote. And that was actually published in the newspaper. And the reason he changed his vote is that the conduct of Sandra during that 20 minutes she was chair, indicating that she was not familiar enough with the procedure to be chair. And that's not an insult to her. That's a fact. She's been on this board for 2 years, compared to, I think, at least 8 years that Nora is on the board, which is why Nora is the appropriate chair to this board. That's why I voted for her. Not because of party, but because of the most experienced person should be a chair. She's acted as essentially vice chair, as the secretary for years, and performed admirably when Doug was not available to be here as chair at meetings. That is why. I find it interesting that though the text messages were all read, the criticism goes to Candy Perez, not to the chair, someone who was the chair of this board, reaching out to Jay Case, who is a representative of everyone in this room. But he was giving advice, inserted himself into a procedure for a municipal board. That was improper as well. But that was what happened. There shouldn't be texting going on during the meetings. I agree with that, and I accept that I should not have done that. But I don't think that there's any reason to expel or ask a member of this board to resign because he changed his mind when he had the right to change his mind, which all of us will have if we do another vote. We all can change the votes. We're not stuck with our first vote. That's what a re-vote is. And I think it's improper for any member of this board to cast aspirations on the moralness of any other member based on your own view of what you read. Sandra asked you, Sal, to ask for a revote. During a meeting, she was instructing another board member what to write.
Actually, it was recount.
Recount. Okay, well, the typos was hard. But you're instructing another board member to make a motion. That is wholly improper, as you are well aware, or should be.
She has the floor.
So the point is that we have to operate as a board. Attacking each other personally is not productive. And I was not going to say anything at this meeting because I want us to work together for the interest of Winchester and our students. And that's what we need to do. And attacking each other is not the way it's going to work. So it's up to this board, if there's a motion made, to decide whether to do a third vote. And at that time, every member will have the right to make their decision as to that vote. And changing the vote doesn't mean you don't have morals or strength. In fact, it may mean that you looked at a situation and said, oh, I made a mistake because the right person wasn't elected. I have nothing further to say.
Any other discussion?
Yes. So, I love the faux outrage because we're focusing on the wrong things, I think. I nominated Nora 2 years ago for chair when we were first new. I like Nora. I think she's very competent. I think we share a lot of the same things. But I've prepared something that I want to read because I know that if I'm trying to do this extemporaneously, I will forget what I need to say. And again, with the outrage is about, I don't think there was any attacking. I think there was an exposing of improper behavior. And I am guilty also, Cheryl, yes. But if you look, what's interesting is if you look at the timeline, I texted Jay almost 40 minutes after the second vote. So there was no trying to influence. And I'm glad that I did because he said to preserve the ballots, which, and also too, I do have to say that I was not in agreement to have the second vote. I think we were so shocked by the maneuver that, and then Melanie quickly became the de facto chair when she stood up and ripped up the ballots, but I'll address that. All right, and I am in agreement that this shouldn't be happening on our board, but actions, unfortunately, have consequences. 2 years ago, I ran for the Board of Education because I felt I needed to do something to counteract what was going on around me. The country was still in COVID protocol, mask mandates were still in place, and vaccine mandates for adults had been implemented. Vaccines were being approved for children 5 to 11, and Governor Lamont indicated he would be open to the idea of local school districts imposing vaccine mandates for students. As a parent, I felt left out of all of these incredibly important decisions that were being decided for my child, and I know I wasn't the only one who felt this way. So, I decided to run for the Board of Education on the platform of parental choice, honoring the authority of parents to be able to decide what was best for their child. After being sworn in, Tori and I set to work learning how a board was run, what our role was, and how we could help move our district forward while also making sure the needs of the students, the teachers, the parents, and the superintendent were being met. Under the leadership of Doug Fenninger, and with only a few missteps as new members of the board, Tori and I were able to work with our fellow board members in a bipartisan way, respectful of each other's opinions and differences. I'm proud to say that we, as a board, voted unanimously to end the mask mandate in our school district as soon as the state left the decision to the individual school districts. I'm proud that we have worked together to continue to support the work of the teachers and to fund programs that will move our district forward. We have dedicated teachers and a hardworking, responsive superintendent who are trying to overcome the lingering deleterious effects COVID has had on students while also trying to improve instruction and test scores. Fast forward to November 14th, our first board meeting with our new elected members. We voted for the chair, secretary, and committee chairs, and almost immediately after the first vote, texting from a person outside of the meeting began between two members of our board. It is clear by the text messages that the outcome of the first vote was unacceptable to this person as she texted to the new board member, "This is not good." The new member assured this person that it should still be a good board, and we still have the numbers to keep everything in check, whatever that means. The new board members goes on to reprimand the outside influencer, saying he did not appreciate the subtle pressure about the vote he decided to cast based on conversations he had with members. He also said he didn't really care about party lines on Board of Education, a good and proper sentiment One, unfortunately, that he was unable to hold onto, because if he had, we would not be in this current situation. Within the same time frame, texting was occurring between this outside person and a second board member. They were conferring back and forth as to whether the board member should use a point of order and invalidate the first vote based on a technicality, as no one had signed their ballots. 40 minutes into our board meeting, and once approval was given by the outside person to the board member to go ahead with the maneuver to try and get a second vote, a point of order was called. We had violated our bylaws as no one had signed their ballots. The first vote was declared invalid. The superintendent took control of the meeting as de facto chair, ripped up the ballots, and a new vote was called. In that 40 minutes, a BOE member's vote was changed by subtle pressure, his words, not mine, and the desired outcome was achieved. Vote flipped, Nora is chair. Was what occurred legal? Of course it was. Political tactics happen at all levels, both statewide and federally. We see it happen every day. Was it problematic? According to our attorneys, Shipman and Goodwin, texting about board business during a meeting, whether to board members or others, can be considered a violation of the open meeting provisions of the Freedom of Information Act. Members of the public have the right to attend public meeting and to be aware of what is being said. Was it morally or ethically correct? That's for each person to decide for themselves. All I know is that on that day, the ideals that we should be aspiring to as the guardians of our children's future were not in play, and as a result, people's own personal desires led to machinations that should never enter into an institution that deals with the good of children. What occurred impugned both the integrity of the vote and the Board of Education. I'm hoping that after this fiasco, we can move on to the actual business of the board in a way that will uplift our mission. Clearly, trust will need to be rebuilt, and we will need to examine ourselves as to how we can best exemplify the principles we wish to impart to the younger generation, ideally through our very own actions. That's it. And so, you're right, I did text. However, that is not the issue. And I feel that we do need to move on from this. I have respect for Nora. I think she was an unwitting person in this whole thing, and that it has colored, unfortunately, the chairmanship. And Nora is not deserving of that. And again, I hope that we can move on and learn from this and put it behind us and work for the betterment of the Winchester school system. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just gonna step-
Any other discussion?
Yes, I feel, Sandra, that you misstated. Maybe you haven't reviewed the video. But when I made the point of order, there was discussion. We were all in shock. And Mel repeatedly said, I'm gonna rip up the ballots, okay? Are we set? We do this, we can't be undone. Do you understand that? And everyone at this table, including you, who was chair at the moment, agreed to that. So I don't think
Well,
it's fair.
by inaction, I think we agreed. But
Well,
again, I'm gonna put it.
I'm still
no-
talking, please.
Okay, sorry.
And, so I don't think this is fair to say Mel took over. Her role
I didn't say she took over.
was, can I please talk without being interrupted? Thank you.
Sure, Cheryl.
Her role was to effectuate the vote. So once we all agreed and said, yes, looks at the bylaw, she's right, we have to do it again, she took the time and then she repeatedly asked, more than once, if I'm gonna do this, you can't undo it. I'm gonna rip up the votes, okay? I'm gonna rip up the votes. And then she did in front of all of us, and no one objected. In fact, we'd all agreed. I think that needs to be clear, and I think if a review of the video will demonstrate that accuracy. So I don't want Mel to be the fall guy on this. I don't think that's appropriate, and I don't think she acted inappropriate in, acting upon the point of order and the agreement of the board to do a new vote.
Other discussion?
I don't think in any way, shape, or form I accused Mel of anything. I said when she stood up and ripped up the ballot, she became the de facto chair. And it even says that in the Shipman and Goodwin opinion, if you've read it. And again, you can make this about the fact that none of us objected, but I don't think that really is the issue. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. It is now in the public as to what happened. And again, I will say that I think this is not about me being chair or Nora now being chair. This is about what occurred, the undue influence that was put upon a member, the back and forth of trying to figure out. And you're right, you got us on a technicality, that's what I said, you know. Is it illegal what happened? No, it happens all the time. You got us, you know? But, well, you were able to get a vote, and because as I remember last time when we did with Doug, we just wrote on our paper ballots, but it doesn't matter. The point is, and again, and then I'm done, is you keep bringing it back to, well, you didn't object. No, you're right. I was shaking because I have reviewed the video. I was shaking my head up and down, yes. I'm going, why the hell are you shaking your head, yes? Because I was in shock that, you know, this was coming out of left field. Nobody objected. I think we're all sitting here kind of in shock is that, we're going to have a second vote now. So you're right. My skills were, I was not prepared with Robert's Rules of Order the way I should have been. And Jerry Martinez is up in heaven, I'm sure, going, dang it, Sandra, I told you to read that dang book. That's not the point. The point is that outside influence came into play into a vote, and the integrity of the vote became an issue. That's it. So, you know.
Any further discussion?
Yes, I would ask, Shane, could you clarify, did you change your vote because of what Candy texted you?
No, as I clarified in the Republican American article when Kurt had reached out, I changed my vote solely based upon how the meeting was being conducted. Like I had said, and we had learned during our legal training, is something as small as calling out the votes, something as small as calling out those pieces of information into the record. Those are also Freedom of Information Act violations if that was not being done. And from what I had saw from the meeting when Sandra was running the meeting, Nora was the one that was piggybacking and calling out the vote. So as for smoothness of the meeting was why I had changed my vote, not pressure related to what Candy was texting me, as I had said to her. The pressure that I believe that I was referring to after reflecting on my actions of that night was more along the lines of it being the first meeting, obviously as a brand new board member, the first meeting going through a vote of this caliber, and putting the pressure onto myself as to the flip-flop and the change and all of that. Was it appropriate to be texting during the meeting? No. I can promise no one will see me with my phone out again during another meeting. But with that being said, I also want to apologize to the board, also apologize to the citizens of Winsted. Because of my conduct, we are currently sitting in this matter, and I would love to move forward as a board and also have the trust of the board that something like this for me will not happen again.
Any further discussion? I think one of the lessons out of all of this is that we don't use our cell phones. I mean, it's something we tell kids, and I think we need to learn from them. We do have 2 votes. There were problems with both votes. And so there's also a problem that we have with the communications that occurred. Whether or not they're a part of FOI violations will not be determined now. But what we have now is an opportunity to take a look at a third possible vote, which Sandra knows that is something that I've been advocating for since the beginning. So as a way to regain the trust of the community, our cell phones are away. Shane, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, just real quickly, as a new member of the board, one of the things that I'd like to see going forward and kind of piggyback on something similar that you're just speaking about, this is a public board. So the emphasis on all of us holding each other accountable, but also being accountable for our actions. That first meeting was a little bit of a blindside for everyone. I appreciate that we all have different backgrounds, different opinions on things, different viewpoints. We do have to come together to work together going forward, but we have to do it in a public forum, in a public way. So I don't know the proper way to go about it, but I think we should have kind of, and actually a member of the selectmen had made a good point to me. He said, do children have their cell phones out in class? If we're helping making decisions for the children of our town, we should then set the precedent for that and make it a bylaw that we're not using our cell phones. Not that we even should have to do that, but we should do something about it, that something so trivial as that doesn't come between us, so we don't have an outcome like we have right now, right? This is unfortunate that we're here wasting time on this matter. But hopefully we can get past it, and as you said, Shane, get to a better place and actually get to solving the problems in our town and help the children of our town have the best education possible. So that's what I'd like to see going forward.
Any other discussion?
Just regarding that, you know, I think it really just needs to be, everyone needs to have have your own ethics and morals about it. If we're gonna have a rule that we can't even have our cell phones out, you know, if someone has something important going on at home, or they have a baby or something, we're not gonna sit there and really, oh, Cheryl, look, you know, what if she's looking if her kid needs to be picked up or something? That's silly. We just need to all, you know, have a genuine sense of morality about us. We're not kids in a classroom, you know. We shouldn't be cheating, even if we had the option. I don't want to tell anybody they can't have a phone, you know, and look at if their wife texted them or their grandma texted them or anything like that. That's just my opinion on that.
We were discussing looking at our bylaws prior to the past election, and so maybe that could be something that the bylaw subcommittee would take on, is that conversation. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, so we have agenda number 3, discussion, possible action, a motion to rescind the election of the officers of the Winchester Board of Education held November 14th, which resulted in the appointment of the following officers: Chairperson Nora McCarskey, Secretary Sandra Strubar. If we were to take this possible action, we have to motion to rescind the second vote, which is the vote that is legally standing. The board took an action. You can't undo a board action. The second vote is the legal action. And so in order for us to undo that, we need 2/3 majority of this board to undo that or to rescind that second vote. We don't have to do anything. And we leave it as is. Up to you. Do we have a motion to rescind?
I'll make a motion to rescind.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So this is a motion. The first one was Jeanette, second one Shane Deschamps. This is a motion to rescind that second vote. We need 6 of 9 to rescind. All in favor to rescind, say aye. Raise your hand. That's 4. Opposed? That's 5. Motion fails to rescind. 4 to 5. So the vote from November 17th stands. That is that Nora McCarskey is chair, Sandra Strubar is secretary. The elections of the committee chairs shall remain. The committee chairs are policy is Jeanette, membership is Cheryl, Shane D.
No, Cheryl's not membership.
Policy?
No,
Sorry.
it's not chair ready.
All right. I'm sorry, chair is Jeanette is chair. Member is Cheryl.
Oh.
Policy chair is Jeanette. Member, this is again from November. Cheryl, Shane Deschamps, Renee, Shane Centrella, and myself. Curriculum chair is Renee. This is again from November 14th. Jeanette, Tori, Shane Deschamps, and Jonathan are members of curriculum. Finance chair is myself. Members are all of us: Cheryl, Renee, Jeanette, Tori, Shane Deschamps, Shane Centrella, and Jonathan.
By any chance, would it be too late to add me to policy as well? Would it be too late, or no?
No, it is not. It's my discretion. I'll put you on policy.
Thank you.
Jonathan is added, Barbara, to policy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 4 of 7 for quorum on the policy committee. Okay. All clear? Okay. Moving on to item 4 of the agenda review, possible action, Board of Education agenda. Anything to add or rearrange on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, moving on, comments for the chair. Okay. All right. We have much work to do in the next few months. In fact, the work that we do never ends. We do have to pause today and recognize some stakeholders that are part of the work that we do. It is mid-year next month, and it creeps up on us very quickly. As a board, we need to recognize our teachers, our paras, and our support staff. We know that you put in 110%. Your energy in coordinating the things that we've just done, International Night, the choir's experience in the town tree lighting ceremony, the spelling bee, Pearson's school talent show, and the many other activities, both in and out of the classroom, do not go unnoticed. Our hope is that you all find some time to rest this coming holiday, especially this week during your parent-teacher conferences. We have to thank our parents and our caregivers. Thank you for supporting your children and our school system in your daily educational journey. Your time in working with groups such as the PTO and attending performances and celebrations is critical in helping all of our students grow to their potential, and we all need you. To the students, I don't know if you're watching tonight, I want you to know that each of you can make a difference in your school and in our community. The small but not insignificant pleases and thank yous can make an impact. Be the one to make an impact. Administrators and district leaders, former board chair Doug Feniger often used to use the rowing analogy. For you, it is most fitting as district leaders, steering our course and communicating to the rest so that we all row in the same direction. It's critical for our district to be successful. And finally, fellow board members, I once heard a person say, our mistakes do not define us. Our mistakes refine us. And I believe our work together over the next several months while we open up and pull up our sleeves will be why we signed up for this job. It's for the kids. So let's get to work. Public comment? 3 minutes are allotted to each speaker per board policy 1120. No board employee, student, or community member should be defamed within a public comment. Policy 1120 reads, the Winchester Board of Education welcomes you to its business meeting. There are 2 opportunities set aside to hear comments from the public. We welcome and encourage public participation as a valued part of communicating input with the Winchester Board of Education. We appreciate your adherence to the following. Complete the requested information on the sign-in sheet if you wish to speak, your name, your address, and email. State your name and address when you are called upon to speak tonight. You will be allotted 3 minutes to share your comments. Please be advised that this is not the practice of the Board of Ed to engage in dialogue regarding commentary. The superintendent of schools will be directed by the chairperson to prepare an appropriate response in a timely manner. We appreciate your time and thoughtful commentary. The Winchester Board.
I need to step up for a minute.
Okay, sorry. Barb? Yep. 7:39? wouldn't mind stating your name and your address.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
This is the only time I'll go by my formal name, which is William Hudak, 232 Granville Road. I wanted to just take a moment to thank each of you. You are doing something incredibly important by being members of the Board of Education, and you all care about students. You actually all care about our community. And that, unfortunately, oftentimes gets lost in this conversation. I may agree or disagree with any of you about any given point, and that's not important. I would, however, say that you have rules. Follow the rules. My gosh, that shouldn't be that hard. And it seems like everything that's happened here could have been avoided had you followed the rules. So, you know, I hope that you'll get over this. It'll be a learning exercise for all of you and for our community. Because the reality is that all of you are awesome, and what you're doing for our community is so incredibly important that I don't want that to get lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hudak. Anyone else for public comment? Anyone else for public comment? Anyone else for public comment? Okay, 3 times no. Consent agenda items, discussable possible action. Minutes of the Board of Ed meeting, November 14th, 2023. A review of those minutes.
I would just make a suggestion to amend the minutes of the board to clarify that it was a point of order that resulted, not just Cheryl and Glenn said.
What page?
Trying to get to it.
Yeah, you
I'm
gotta
sorry.
speak up.
I'm just not, so. Okay, I'm looking at page 11 of the, no, that's, I'm sorry. Page 9 of the electronic says, Cheryl McGlynn stated that the elections were invalid, as it was supposed to be a signed ballot. I believe it should state that Cheryl made a point of order advising that as to elections being invalid.
So
It should be.
I have page 5 on the actual handout.
Yeah, I've got 9 in electronic.
Cheryl McGlynn stated that the elections were invalid as they were supposed to be signed by a, supposed to be by a signed ballot.
I think it should be that, specify that was a point of order. 'cause
It was
that
a
would
point of order.
be- Yes.
Okay,
Made a point
Barb,
of
that
order.
was a point of order. Cheryl McGlynn made a point of order.
Cheryl made a point of order that the elections, that's it.
Just a second. Just, can you note that Renee? I did. Okay, thank you. Okay, other edits, they're just typos here. Page 4, my last name, small. It's actually page 3, my bad, at the very bottom.
Got it.
Page,
My last name on page 9.
yeah. Page 9.
Got it.
Jonathan Mohort. There's Shane, page 7. Shane is, Deschamps is spelled Shane differently. Shayne, Deschamps. Or you could just do Shane Chantrella and add Shane Deschamps' name to that.
We're just gonna do D, C, and D.
And then, the last typo I noticed, I could be wrong, but page 5. Any questions? Can you remind the BOE of its benefit to the district? Bullet number 4, day 1 system installed Green Bank finances or Green Leaf? Is it bank?
No, the Green Bank
Bank, okay.
finances. Green Leaf is the company that works with the solar.
Okay, so we'll leave that.
Lots of green companies.
Okay,
Lots of green.
okay. That's all I have.
page 7, B, section B. We have ARO, SRO, and then the first line, it says ASO. I believe ASO is the correct terminology. I believe it's Armed Security Officer in my
Armed Resource Officer,
Gilbert's-
ARO.
ARO, SRO.
Okay, so we're changing
Then
it in
it's
the
the
sentence.
first paragraph. That needs to be fixed.
Gilbert is in the process of discussing hiring ARO. Yeah.
It's ARO, yes.
When I seconded, my first name is also spelled Jonathan.
Oh, that's interesting.
This isn't against you, Barb.
That's who did? The first, second,
Got it. I will just have Darlene go in and do a change all on that.
yeah.
Okay, any other edits? Okay, do you have a motion to accept the November 14th minutes as edited?
I'd make a motion.
Cheryl, second was Jonathan, Cheryl and Jonathan. All in favor? That's unanimous, so we're now 8-0. Okay. That's the minutes. Minutes of the special meeting, December 5th. Do we have any edits? Okay. Do you have a motion to accept the minutes December 5th, special meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Sandra.
Sandra, good, thank you. Second,
I'll second that one too.
Jonathan. All right, all in favor of accepting the minutes on December 5th?
I'm abstaining, Cheryl's
Oh, I'll abstain as well. I was not here.
Okay, so
So that's 602.
602, correct, 602. Thank you for the math. Okay. Item number 8, Gilbert reports from the Board of Education, Representative Gilbert.
Yeah, Renata's not here.
I did not attend the last meeting. I can't report anything to you guys, sorry.
Okay, so no report? Okay, no report. Correspondence to the board, item 9.
May I ask a question? though?
Sure.
Because I read their agenda, and I know that one of the requests, I believe it was by Brian Sunday, was to have the meetings recorded. And I'm wondering, they said that they were checking into the media room over at Gilbert, but they weren't sure whether they were going to be able to absorb that cost. Is there any other alternative that they could use, other than their media room at Gilbert?
Anybody have any
You could
information?
use the, they also talked, I think, about the auditorium, which is kind of set up for it. But Greg, I think the last time it was Renata was the one talking to Greg about that, and he was exploring his idea, opinions. He understood that everyone really wanted that, so
To
I
sit
expect
up.
it to be handled by,
Good.
in
Yeah,
the
I think it
future
would be good for
soon,
Gilbert
yeah.
to have
yeah. We'll have it
meetings
recorded.
recorded. Good, thank you.
Okay. Item 9, correspondence to the board.
We have one correspondence this evening, and I ask the board to please accept with regret, is a letter of resignation from Kaylee Morris, second grade teacher.
I make a motion to accept with regret.
Second, Cheryl.
Nora and Cheryl. All in favor with regret? Okay, that is 8-0. Superintendent's report, item 10.
Yes, real quick, before I start superintendent's report, I just want to further invite the Board of Ed and Board of Selectmen members that may or may not be here, that on the 18th, I've invited Board of Selectmen members and Board of Ed to tour Hinsdale and Pearson to make sure that everybody kind of understands the intricacies of our educational program at both school buildings, also kind of preemptively entering into budget season so that you can kind of see what the workings of the inner school buildings look like. So please connect with me if you would like to be able to attend to that. For the superintendent's report, I, along with our literacy team, attended the Science of Reading Masterclass. We've held multiple teacher support meetings. We've attended the 2024 Teacher of the Year ceremony. We've held multiple parent support meetings around district attendance. I met with Ms. Pacini to set up Pick a Time conference scheduler. As of right now, we are on target to have about 98% of our parents scheduled for parent-teacher conferences this week. So out of 608 students, I would say we're close to having about 595 families in for parent-teacher conferences this week. So our teams have been extremely busy. Our Family Resource Center and Multilingual Department held an international night with our multilingual families. Our students at Pearson School participated in the talent show and highlighted many of their gifts, from singing to dancing. So we had a very eventful Friday evening. We are currently preparing to roll out our high dosage tutoring program, which is set to start in January, and we have catapult tutoring programs coming in through a grant that will be administering 6th grade tutoring to our math students. Our PTO held a very successful annual holiday store for our students. Walkthroughs were held for our non-certified staff members. Our choir has been singing all over the place. Last night, Lieutenant Governor Susan Beisowitz was here in town. She was at the Senior Center and then followed up at the Pearson School. She was recognizing 70 Winchester residents who were part of the Vietnam War, and those individuals were recognized for their service in the Vietnam War. Our Pearson Pop Choir last night sang the national anthem last night, and I have to say they did a beautiful rendition last night of the national anthem. It was classically done and just a solid rendition of the national anthem last night for the veterans that were here and being recognized. And they also sang for about a good 40 minutes on Saturday evening in a beautiful lit sky for the Christmas tree lighting Saturday night at the town green. So that was a very nice evening. We met with our literacy team to work on the next steps actually today, resulting in our reading waiver application, which I'm going to go through with you tonight. We held our Science of Reading walkthroughs. I just spoke to you about the Vietnam era Veterans Ceremony from last night. And then our students participated in the first round of the Scripps National Spelling Bee by completing their classroom competition at Pearson. That was this past Monday they did that. And then in January, they will move on to the school-wide competition. So right now we have all the classrooms have one homeroom winner from every single grade level. So there's about 4 winners per grade level right now. And then in January, those winners from each grade level will compete in grades 3 to 6 for a school-wide winner in January for the spelling bee. Under operations, we attended our insurance collaborative meeting. Budgetarily, we are not excited about our insurance premiums for health insurance. We know are going up 11.6% this upcoming fiscal year. So we know that that's one number that we're not going to get away from. We've held several meetings, Nancy and I, to prepare for our upcoming budget season. In terms of leadership, I've attended multiple superintendent meetings on teaching and learning committees, held multiple ADA and FMLA personnel meetings. I've attended the Alliance District Superintendents meeting, small district superintendents meetings, couple board of directors meetings for CAP superintendents, and Litchfield County superintendents meetings. So in terms of upcoming important events that you may be wanting to know about, we have parent-teacher conferences this week. Next week, Board of Education committee meetings, which will also be including the new ad hoc committee for school security. We'll be meeting following committee meetings next week. Those start at 6:30 next week in the Hinsdale Science Lab. On the 20th, we have a PTO meeting at 6:15. Also on the 20th is the Gilbert School Court meeting. We have winter break, which I'm hoping for a little snow finally, coming up. And then we have our first Board of Ed budget workshop on January 3rd at 6 p.m. So that concludes my report there. In terms of our student registration and staff vacancies report, we have one opening, which actually just closed today. We had one opening, which was the second grade teacher. We just filled that role this morning with a experienced teacher from Thomaston Public Schools. So she'll be joining us. She's got 5 years experience in lower elementary school. So she'll be joining us on January 8th, will be her first day. Next week, we will be hosting a pizza party for the families and the students in that particular classroom to come in the evening and do a meet and greet with their new teacher prior to the break. So that way the kids can get to meet their new teacher and the parents can meet the new teacher also. In terms of new registration, December is historically a slow month. So January is usually when it picks up. So we have only welcomed one new student into the district, and that is in Hinsdale for the month. And then for withdrawals, we did have 3 students move out of Hinsdale, 2 moved, 1 was an out-of-district placement, and then 1 movement from 3rd grade. 2 of those students who moved out of the district did have support, so. When it came to overall enrollment in the district right now, we are sitting at 608 students, pre-K to grade 6. So chronic absenteeism, I do not want you to have a moment that it looks like it doubled for the month of November. The reason is because we only have 18 days in the month of November, and in order to be chronically absent for the month of November, it only takes 1.8 days because it's 10%. So if you missed 1 day in November, you were chronically absent. So don't worry about the month of November, because if you missed 1 day, you're identified as chronically absent for the month of November. So let's take November with a grain of salt. We are working on lowering that percentage. Gilbert's enrollment is 424 students. You can see the grade level breakdown next, and I'm going to invite Miss O'Day Wyrick to come up to the podium here, up to the microphone. Nance, if you would please turn that microphone on and walk us through the financials, if you would please. Thank you.
So we're in a rather similar position to what we were in last month, in that the projections that we had with the students that we were working with that had come into the district did in fact need to be outplaced. And so the big story is that this special ed out-of-district placements have increased because we have 6 new students, and the students' needs are significant, and we have to take care of them. We need to provide them with proper education. The other issue is the transportation. There's a lack of drivers, and there is additional student need, and the transportation companies are having a field day with the pricing. So it's a difficult situation to be in, because we can't just throw everybody in a station wagon and drive them there ourselves. It has to be a properly vetted company. So we're in a situation where we are having to, the term I use is cannibalize our grants to keep the operating budget in the black without supplanting anything. We can only use the grant funds for very specific reasons. And so it's going to make next year's budget even tighter.
Just to kind of give you an idea in terms of transportation for out-of-district placements, you know, transportation for out-of-district placements per day, one van run is running around $400 per day. So just if you extrapolate that across 180 days, you know, that's a large sum of money for one van run across.
And
So,
unfor- oh,
and there's so much competition out there for such a short amount of service. So it's not like there's a large amount of availability of these services that we're looking for. So we are in competition with other districts looking for very, very similar services. You know, what we're trying to do is partner with other districts and ride share and cost share and route share so that we can extrapolate some savings whenever it comes to some of these high-cost transportation needs. But in some cases, we have some children that are unable to be on vehicles with multiple other children for safety reasons and may or may not necessitate an adult monitor being on there for their safety or the safety of others. So in some cases, those costs are also exponentially increased beyond that.
That's what I was gonna ask you. So if we're paying a $400 base, then children like that are, who need more support? it's even-
Maybe more than that
Okay.
also. And I'm using that as an average. You know, we have some that may be coming in less than that, but on average, that's the ballpark that we're getting right now.
Okay, and I don't want to get in the weeds, Nancy, but I just want to ask this question really quick. I know that private schools have the ability to purchase their own van, certified drivers. I'm wondering, is a public school able to do something like that also to save costs?
So
Are we
we,
thinking about that already? Yeah.
we,
been
we
there.
used to have that, and the liability on that is extreme. So when I first started here, we did have a few vans. However, the maintenance, the insurance, the ability to be able to staff that and the developed training that goes along with that, there is a lot of operational
Cost to it.
costs
Right.
to that. So it's not just as easy as buying the van, having it insured, and getting drivers.
Sure.
There's a lot more cost associated with that.
But if we're doing, and my math might be incorrect, if we're doing $122,000 a year just on a $400 trip for 180 days, and we're multiplying that amongst,
We could certainly consider, there would need to be some administrative oversight of that because there's a lot of boxes that need to be checked in
Sure.
terms of like state regulations around
sure. for sure.
transportation
I'm sure
and
there's a lot of
liabilities.
regulations,
And yes, and some of that isn't obviously within some of our wheelhouses. So we would need to do
But
some
just something else
legwork
to
around
consider.
that.
Okay,
So,
Good, thank you.
The biggest challenge when we had the vans was having drivers show up consistently. And it was a real problem. And I would say that was the biggest challenge. And that was 8 years ago. And it's much worse now. So,
How about Ed Advance? They provide a lot of services for us. Are they doing transportation for us as
They
well?
are.
they are, and, in many cases, we do ride share, with other districts, whenever it works out. But when you get somebody who can't get along with anybody and has to be, on a vehicle alone, that's when we really, take a hit. So, but part of that figures into the excess cost grant, which, isn't a super reimbursement for the district, but
it is
it
some
helps a
savings.
little bit.
Yes.
I'm sorry, they don't get along with anybody?
So we have
this-
some, without getting into identifiable information, we have some students that are unable to be safe with others, or maybe in a fragile situation where they can't be with other children on the bus.
So, just so I know, Nancy, page 19 talks about special ed out-of-district enrollment is 25. the 6 additional students, is that in the 25?
If they had
Was it
started
25
in that
plus
month, yes.
Okay, when this
Okay.
report was made.
Right,
All
right, yeah, I
Okay.
mean, if they, the money may have been encumbered in this month, and they may not have started writing with us yet, so it's not expended, but it's committed.
Yeah.
And we were expecting some of those last month, they just hadn't, landed in their,
In their enrollment
what their,
spots, yeah.
where they were gonna be enrolled, or what their transportation was going to be. So that was part of the projection that was in last month, too. So if you go to the next page, you can see that I've had to take another $10,000 out of the non-lapsing fund, again, along with using grant monies to help us keep afloat. And our Medicaid reimbursements are holding steady. If you go to the town support for education, which is the next page, we're utilizing those funds and don't expect to have anything left there. Those are non-educational expenses that the town helps us carry. And then the next page is the grants. And we've had a few new ones that you all have approved us to go ahead and apply for. And we're not looking at a huge grant balance, but we will certainly carry over anything that we can to help with next year for the 2-year grants.
And I think one of the things that I just want to point out, last year, whenever we did the budget, and I told you, and I was explaining that we only have 0.6% of our entire budget that is negotiable. Everything else is predetermined by contractual obligation or operational cost. So only 0.6 of roughly between $22 and $23 million is available for us to even have a discussion about. Everything else is contractually predetermined at cost, so contractually bound. So when I hear people say that, like, you need to cut X, Y, and Z, like, we do not have a budget that is fat with any type of ancillary objects in it. There are no ancillary objects in this budget. As you can see, we are pulling right now from other sources because we drove our budget down as far as we humanly could drive it down last year, to the point where we're pulling from sources this year. So I just, as we enter into this budget year, I need people to recognize that there is no extra in these budget numbers that you are seeing. You are only seeing contractually obligated costs that the district must pay.
There is no contingency, zero, in any line item.
Just for clarity, what would you say is one of those, if it falls into that 1.6% of the budget that is?
No, 0.6
Oh,
of
6
1%.
of 1%. So give an example, just for those that have.
Student supplies, like pencils, notebooks, that is something that, could we deal without? Technically, yes. Should we deal without supplies for children? Absolutely not. So those are the types of things, like right now, most of our field trip expenses are coming off of the backs of families right now. So those are the types of supplies that are contractually obligated.
And so if we get tight, then you have to look at losing staff, right?
Absolutely,
That's what
100%.
Just wanted that clarity.
Yeah, and the
So
magic
I
of-
just, as we enter into the budget season, I just want people to understand, like, that's where these numbers are sitting. Tonight, I'm bringing up, $200,000 worth of grant applications that, I just put before Nancy, because we are going after every single grant that we can absolutely get a hold of to be able to keep the money off of the town coffers as much as possible, understanding that I want to respect the town money as much as possible when it is available for us.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, what you're talking about, I think is going to be very clear to people, because people have no contingency right now, right? Everybody is
100%.
feeling it, so that they're going to be understanding it. And to Cheryl's point, I think we've all been very clear as a board that teachers are the last thing to ever touch. We need our teachers. So I'm sure that you guys, I'm sorry, are gonna have to work really hard to figure it out, but,
There's no magic without the,
No,
without
there
the
is not.
staff.
right. So,
And thank goodness for the grant writers in the district, the teachers and everybody that's been trained, all that energy that you all have been putting into. It's over $3 million worth of grant money. That helps to kind of hold off some concerns.
Absolutely.
That's huge.
Well, and it's been a big assist, with the issues we've had coming out of COVID,
Yeah.
which we're still working on. I just want to call your attention briefly, I know it's not as exciting as the educational side, but the food service folks have been working very hard, and the volumes have gone up for both breakfast and lunches, month over month, each year. And, we're looking at coming in the black so far. So hopefully we'll keep it that way, and our supply costs won't go through the roof. But we're using state bids, so, and that's about the best it's going to get. So, any
Thank
other
you, Nancy.
questions?
no, good luck, Nancy. Enjoy your Christmas before January, your holiday break.
Thank you. Reading waiver?
Yes, so this is what we refer to as an unfunded mandate from the legislator. So since 2016, the legislator has put forth 168 unfunded educational mandates. So that means that the legislator has passed 168 bills that have been unfunded educational mandates that the town and the educational budget has had to pick up the cost for. So this is a prime example of legislation now infiltrating into education, where we are going to have to pick up the bill for an unfunded mandate, okay? So last year, the legislator passed a reading waiver, okay? And this reading waiver requires that every single district in the state of Connecticut have an approved program, one of 8 approved programs for reading every district has to have by July 1st of 2025, okay? So in order for us to continue to meet state guidelines around this, we have to select one of these 8 programs, okay, that meet the state standards around the science of reading. Now, if you've ever had the pleasure of purchasing reading curriculum is the most expensive curriculum that you can possibly purchase. We are probably going to be looking at somewhere between $500,000 to upwards of $750,000 in terms of curricular materials for our district. So, we applied for a waiver to see if our current curriculum could be approved instead of going and having to use one of these alternative programs. So our district applied for the waiver with the support of the Board of Education. We submitted 148 pages of documentation to the commission to be able to be considered. Our waiver was considered out of 4 different areas. One was either approved, the second option was partially approved, the third was transitional, and the fourth was limited, which means not approved. Ours was identified as transitional, meaning we had, out of the 5 areas that they scored it, we had some areas that passed and some areas that didn't. We passed on our phonics program. We did not pass on the other programs because we use Columbia University's units of study, and as does, let me say, probably 80% of the state of Connecticut. I'm just gonna use that round number off the top of my head. And mind you, some of the most successful districts in the state of Connecticut. We all either got transitional or limited that we're using that curriculum. However, districts that were not using that curriculum, that were using some of the other programs, got approved or partially approved. So there were 20 districts right now in the state that ended up getting approved. The rest of us have to either buy a new program or revamp what we're currently doing. So over the coming months, we have a plan. So over the coming months, we have to be able to meet this legislative requirement to be able to have a new reading program, comprehensive reading program in place by July of 1st, 2025. So our literacy team is investigating comprehensive programs. Right now, we have 2 primary comprehensive programs that we are looking at right now that meet the 5 areas of reading, which are phonics, phonemic awareness, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. Our team plans to analyze, pilot, and work with grade level teams in grades 3, kindergarten to grade 3, to determine which program is going to meet the diverse needs of our student population here within Winstead. So I think, you know, in terms of comprehensive program, we will find a program that will meet the needs of our students. I think the biggest hurdle that we have right now is clearly the funding associated with what these programs cost. So tomorrow we meet with our first vendor that we're considering. And I'm hopeful that I'm going to be able to get kind of what I would refer to as a ballpark, at least, to kind of, in my head, rectify if I think that I have a right number, frame of reference in my head for what this curriculum is going to cost, for what this program is going to cost. The state did put forth 2 grants right now. So there's one grant that I am seeking your permission tonight to apply for, which is the ARP ESSER Small Town Right to Read grant, which is in the amount of up to $150,000. So I'm seeking your permission tonight to apply for that grant. The second grant is the ARPA Right to Read grant. Winchester has $51,000 that I could apply for that grant, so I am seeking your permission tonight to be able to apply for that grant. So that roughly gives us, you know, if we are successful in landing the $200,000 available in those 2 grants, we have the opportunity to be able to potentially land $200,000 in grant funds to offset some of these costs. You know, that leaves a gap, though, clearly, of some sort. I don't know what the scale of that gap is till we solidify a vendor, but I anticipate that there's going to be a gap. I have a solution that I think I could present to the board, and I think I want to bring that to the curriculum committee to talk about in terms of allowing us to get kind of a ballpark figure and bringing it to the curriculum committee the following week to kind of scale whether or not I'm within the ballpark figure of what I'm thinking. So I do have some thoughts about how we might be able to facilitate the gap. But I'd like to be able to bring that conversation to our curriculum committee going forward. In the next page in your packet, though, what I have put forth is a timeline for you of kind of an outline of our initiation of this work from December of 23 to the planning phase that'll take us through May of 24 to the purchasing of the program and distribution of materials, which we will take place over the course of the summer, to the execution of implementation and PD of programming throughout the course of the 24-25 school year, to meeting the deadline of July 1 of 25, so that we are within compliance.
Melanie, you mentioned there's some pushback from districts.
There are.
Legal challenges, perhaps?
Yeah, there are some districts that are pushing back on the legislation. I did speak with Representative Case about this. You know, there are some districts that are more Gold Coast districts that have some legal leg power to be able to spend the dollars to be able to fight this. I don't know that, I think we would spend more money in legal fees at this point and probably end up with the same result that we're going to get because this is a legislative requirement, and unless the legislation changes, which in talking with Jay, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case, I think we would end up in the same space that we're currently in.
What if we just didn't do it?
I think they would probably have grounds to withhold some of our state funding.
Do you think they really would though?
Yes.
Potentially. I don't know the answer to that, but
I'm willing to call their bluff. If you guys want to put it to a vote, I'll do it. We can call them and be like, you guys want to take money from the poor kids of Winston? Can't afford it, right?
No.
That's my opinion.
so I think this is an opportunity. You know, we know that our reading scores definitely could be improved upon, and I do think that there are benefits to improving upon our curriculum. Am I happy that we have to spend this caliber of money to do that? Absolutely not, in any capacity. You know, I think there are different ways. I am not happy about a mandate to be able to do this. This is not the way that I would have handled this particular situation. However, it does give us an opportunity to be able to improve performance for children, and you know, that's the ultimate goal that this legislation does have. It's just not, it's not done in the capacity that I would have hoped it would have happened.
The purchasing the programs, what are we talking? Are we talking like phonics books? Is this where all the money is going
When you
toward?
talk about a program, they're talking about a program that, a comprehensive reading program. And when they're talking about a comprehensive reading program, they're talking about a reading program that covers phonics, phonemic awareness, fluency, comprehension, and vocabulary. Thank you. So they're talking about a program that covers those 5 main scientifically researched areas of reading, where if we can develop the core of those areas, research says if children develop those 5 characteristics, foundational skills, they will be able to read proficiently by the end of 3rd grade, thereby being able to be more successful academically as they progress throughout school.
But so what are you getting for your dollar? A book?
So you're getting the whole program. So you're getting a teacher's kit that encompasses all of the materials that go along with the instruction needed to address those 5 core areas of curriculum. And when we do this in curriculum committee, we'll bring you the units of study, the teacher's book, all of the samples, so that we can share that with the Board of Ed. We'll bring you samples of all of that and show you guys exactly what we're putting forth.
Is there another basis that Connecticut went off of? So like another district, or not a district, but another state that they're basing this off of, based on like data that says if this is done, that reading comprehension is at this level? Like, is that's
So
based
there-
on another state?
There's 2 different schools, there's 2 things going on. One, they're following the research behind what's called the science of reading. So there's a whole body out there around the science of reading, and it's a body that looks at literally the research behind reading and how people effectively learn how to read. So that's a body of research. So they are following the research to say this is how kids learn. What Connecticut is doing, there are I believe, don't quote me, but I think it's 8 other states right now that is doing what Connecticut is doing in terms of mandating program selection, like what Connecticut's doing. So legislatively mandating program selection. So there is a minimal amount of states that are kind of going the direction Connecticut's going, saying, you know, you have these programs to be able to meet the requirements or meet the best practices around the science of reading. So there's there's the philosophy side of things, and then there's the operational, how are we gonna get there side of things, if you will.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mel, you said there's 5 programs that the state is?
Off the top of my head, I think
pushing?
there's 8 or 9. They just added 2 more. I think there were 7 originally, and there's 2 more that they just added, so there's 9.
And so where are they getting
I'm not doing
these?
math very well this
That's
evening,
okay.
apparently.
Where are they getting these?
So they
What's-
have a Office of Literacy at the State Department of Ed, and that's not the formal name of that office, but it's a office that they've developed around literacy at the State Department of Ed, where they have selected and researched programs that align with the science of reading research. And they're saying that these 9 programs meet the comprehensive rubrics and evaluations that have gone on around the science of reading. They meet the standards of the science of reading to be able to be identified as a program that you could use successfully.
And then, so how old is our program that we've been using?
So our program, we've had iterations. So when we were in receivership, that was when our reading curriculum really started to be revamped. So Ed Advance came in, let's say 2015, 2016, and they started to work with our teams during that time to rewrite our curriculum. And I'm gonna say curriculum because there's a difference between curriculum and program. So our curriculum, because we have a curriculum that encompasses different programs. So we have like Foundations, which is our phonics program. So we have different segments of programs that come together to make a curriculum for reading. And we use Lucy for Columbia for reading, Readers, Writers, Workshop. And when our units that we worked with were developed with at Advance, we rewrote those units and have been revising them over the course of the last several years. So from 2016 to current, as information and as units change and standards change, we have revamped those units, and we have a Google Doc and a Google unit where they go in and they just adjust it as time has progressed. We know, though, that our curriculum needed some adjustments so that we could put more scientifically based research in it in terms of reading and best practices. So that is an area where we wanted to do some more work. This is not the avenue in which we wanted to be able to have to get there, but it's kind of where we're at right now.
And then is there, because we're a less moneyed district, do you think there will be more money available for districts that are being pushed into adopting these?
Like alliance districts and such?
So when this first came out, that $50,000 grant was available. We waited till now to apply for it because I wanted to see what the results of the waiver were. So we were kind of holding out till we got the results of the waiver. Then within the past month and a half, that new ARP ESSER small town rural grant around Right to Read came out. So I haven't heard of anything on the horizon, but you know, every once in a while another one slides through. So certainly if something becomes available, we will 100% apply for it, as we always do.
Yeah.
But I don't see anything else on the horizon at the moment.
So Melanie, we're local districts. That is that the state, I know, has its laws and the Fed has its laws. When we say a state mandate, are we talking about that the state just simply would hold monies as a carrot or a stick? Can they really mandate us?
This is legislatively mandated, so this is a
So-
legislative
okay.
mandate.
Okay. I find that interesting. And then the performance of these programs, do they have assessment plans in place to see which of these 8 programs are really working and we're doing better than Lucy Calkins and Foundations? Do we have, okay,
So,
all right.
that is one thing that we are going to be seeking from the current vendors is show us the data and the historic performance data.
Yeah.
You know, I'm hopeful that we're gonna be able to find some Connecticut districts that have had these programs in place
Okay.
for a period of time to be able to see what their SBAC results look like.
Okay.
I,
That's to be determined.
yeah.
Then the monies that we spent on Columbia, the training, the teachers' libraries in their classrooms, is there any way in which these programs would bring that stuff in so we don't lose it all? Or we don't know yet.
So I think we'll always be able to use books and classroom libraries, and our foundations materials will be great. We were just talking about this today in terms of intervention. Those materials will be great resources for intervention, tier 2, tier 3 interventions for children. So I don't think that our materials right now will be going to waste. You're not gonna find us being like, oh, let's just
Unload.
throw this out. This is not going to be the case. I think we're going to have good resources to be able to continue to work with children with.
So you said we're one of 8 states, right?
I believe that was
that
the
are-
number that they had shared with us.
Is like there any way that we could kind of get like a use case of who's already implemented it and how it's gone or something like that?
Yeah, so of those 8 states, though, I am unsure that I don't think those 8 states have the exact same.
Yeah, setup, yeah. I
Compo-
gotcha. Yeah.
I think those 8 states are also doing the same thing that Connecticut's doing in terms of like they have a selected group of programs that they also
It's different,
mandate.
yeah.
It might not be the same
Same,
programs,
got it.
but they have a similar
They're implementing
setup.
something. Got it.
Yeah.
Is there no open source, like, material that would cover us to get through these?
It's a great question. So right now, there is no approved open source curriculum.
But if we used it and applied it to our own, like use the open source and,
Go for another waiver.
right,
I don't believe at this point there is any open source at this point.
And the clock is ticking to July 1, 2025.
yeah.
Is there talk about them extending the deadline because all of the districts are fighting to figure this out?
That'll be legislatively changed if the extension happens. That's not something that like districts or the State Department could do at this point. So I believe that would have to be changed legislatively at this point, because it's in the legislation that by July 1, 25, it has to be implemented.
Okay.
That's where we're at. So, I'd
conversation.
like to be able to kind of continue this conversation in curriculum committee, if that would be okay.
Okay, very good. Item 11, presentations?
No presentations this
Okay.
evening.
Item 12, new business, after-school proposal, Ralph Nader.
So, Ralph Nader has contacted me, and he would like the Board of Education to please consider an after-school program. His wife, Claire Nader, has written a book, and he would like to have a focus group with sixth graders to read the book, You Are Your Own Best Teacher, Sparking Curiosity and Imagination and Intellect in Tweens. He would like to essentially have 10 topics. It's a topic-based book on different characters throughout history and some of the struggles that they faced in their lives and how they overcame them. So like one might have had perseverance and had the teens talk about like what perseverance means to them and how this person like overcame issues in their life. So what he would like to do is set it up as a round table where it's videoed, and then these students would participate with a mentor where they'd be videotaped, and then a production would be put together and shared. He has a vision of this being more like of a televised situation going forward. He has offered to pay the teacher, that would be the sponsor for this program, a stipend of around $4,000 to cover her after-school costs. So it is before the board for your consideration.
Has anyone read the book yet?
I have read the book. I do not see any, there was nothing of controversy in the book. I did not see any type of like politicizing of like, you know, anything of concern that would not be appropriate for a sixth grade audience.
Are these real historical characters?
They are
or
real historical characters, yes.
So I did a little just research on this, and it, you know, it gives examples. Benjamin Franklin, Frederick Douglass, Helen Keller to illustrate the profound awareness and discipline. And it, you know, part of the focus seems to be is to try to get kids away from the social media and learn how to stand up to those influences, which I think is a very significant, powerful message. Is that what you saw when you read it?
Yes, absolutely. And you know, I focused on perseverance. You know, you talk about like Helen Keller and, you know, how she became so renowned for her work, and she persevered through many obstacles within her life. And I think, you know, the idea behind this is that, you know, they read the story behind Helen Keller and her experiences, and then they dialogue around what those experiences, their own personal connections, what perseverance means to them, how she overcame, how she persevered, and then make connections to their own lives.
So it'd be one of our teachers who are teaching it and doing the roundtable.
Correct.
It would be based on the book.
Yes.
And then they want to televise it and do,
They would like to videotape it, and then it would be edited. And ultimately, he would like to see that it would be televised.
so you'd need parental,
Yes, there would be
Right.
parental permissions that would be
And-
required.
what do you think?
I think it's an opportunity for our leadership students in sixth grade to potentially have some enhanced activity around some really high-level topics.
Awesome.
What's the purpose of the video? Is it to be distributed nationwide?
That is what his ultimate vision is, and I think he's using this as an expansion opportunity to hopefully extrapolate this to more students.
And that's what he said in his proposal, is that sponsorship seeks to have the right to distribute these final videos to other schools and teachers so that a process of emulation gets underway nationwide. So, you know, again, this would all have to be approved by, you know, the parents as well.
Absolutely,
So,
yeah, so like you couldn't participate in this unless you really approved of your child fully experiencing this process, so.
Do we think with the group you're talking about, your sixth grade leadership students, do you think that we would have the numbers from the parents supporting it?
Absolutely.
Has anything like this been offered before?
Not at this level. I mean, we have TAG students, which are our talented and gifted students who participate in, you know, high-level and advanced activities. But I think this is, you know, another advancement opportunity that we could offer that group of students also.
I think it'd be good to have a real variety of students with a variety of experiences, not just like advanced students.
So
or
our
anything like
TAG
that.
students in many cases are a variety of a variety.
Well, I mean, I'm not talking necessarily, you know, gender or race or anything. I'm talking about even lower learners can benefit from this. And I think that would be, you know, people that are more struggling to learn how to learn in a different way.
Absolutely.
And I think that would be, to have, you know, couple students in this group of 10 to be, or this group of 6, what was it? To be included in that would be fabulous for them.
Absolutely.
So not just, not just those students that are the leaders in their class academically or socially or whatever.
Sure.
It's good for interactions
Yeah,
even
absolutely.
between them, yeah.
So Melanie, I'm wondering why this is coming to us. Is it because there's money associated, the $4,000? Or because
Because it's a
typically
new
this might be a
program.
club?
This is a new program to the district, and because it could potentially be of a nationwide distribution, I think it's important to have the Board of Education buy-in.
That would be the only cost, would be the teacher,
Yes.
nothing else.
And there would be
occur on the
no
school.
cost to the Board of Education. This is completely, Mr. Nader is offering to fully fund.
To build, as you said, I mean, right, but he's choosing us, so.
Is this like the first one of its kind here?
Yeah.
And then it's going to go from there?
That is my understanding, yes.
It's
Kinda
good
like the springboard of the
publicity for
program.
us.
Yes.
Yeah.
We should tell him we would love to help him if he would love to help us with our. I'm serious.
Do you already have a teacher in mind to obviously support it, or is it so we have to talk to staff?
I have a teacher in mind, but I wanted to, before I approached, I wanted to be able to have the Board of Education behind it.
So I'm just gonna ask this question. I mean, what if somebody next comes in with another book to say, I wrote this book, I wanna start this program, I wanna videotape kids, I know, here's what I wanna do with that. Does this open that door to other persons who are gonna start knocking and asking for access to our kids in a similar vein, maybe with a different thread or a different theme?
I think, given Mr. Nader's connection to Winstead, I think you would have an argument that he has a unique connection to our community. And I don't necessarily believe that this opens just generalized access unless that's what the Board of Education would want. I think he has a unique connection to our community. And I think that that could be the connectedness. And I do believe that that is why, in my conversation with him, he elected to ask, in particular, our Pearson students because of his connectedness to our community.
We have to make a decision right now.
We don't have to make a decision right now, but was that your recommendation? I mean, do we have to make a motion to
You would need to make a
I
motion.
make a
this
motion.
MOU?
I make a motion. I think it's an extraordinary opportunity for those kids.
I'll second that.
How will you select the kids?
I think we would want to talk with Mrs. Silverio and the teachers to be able to
Yes.
determine, and kid interest also.
I just pause because when we're talking books, we're talking reading, we're talking sometimes clubs, after-school activities. It typically is in the domain of the hands of the teacher with administration as part of curriculum and impacts on programs. Now I understand the need for it to come to us because it might extend to a nationwide audience.
Have there been any teachers that have looked at the book? I mean, you've looked at it, right, Cheryl, and you've seen it as well. So, but have there been any other teachers?
There
that,
has.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We've had one other individual in the
Gotcha.
district that
Got it,
has
got it.
read the book in
Okay,
full.
cool.
Do we have teacher endorsement?
Again, I haven't brought it to,
Oh, right.
because I didn't want to put the cart
Okay,
before the horse.
gotcha. Okay.
Maybe we can
You are the
discuss
horse.
this more.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a compliment.
It is, it is.
Well, we could make a motion to accept the memo of understanding as written. There could be edits added to it if you'd like. You can also make a motion to table it to committee for further discussion, the curriculum committee. Is there a timeline from Mr. Nader, an expectation of a timeline?
He would like to start in January. I don't know that that is a hard and fast. I think that is a wish. I don't think that is a hard and fast situation.
I made a motion to approve, and it's been seconded.
I think I'm going to amend that motion with a friendly motion and make a motion to bring it to committee where we can further discuss it.
That's a secondary. Who's the second person that
Secondary.
motioned?
Jeanette.
Jeanette, okay.
And then there was a friendly,
Amendment.
Subsidiary motion.
Amendment, I'm
Subsidiary.
not accepting that amendment.
Okay, then I'll make my own
That's not
motion.
friendly, but you can make a secondary
I
motion
will make a
to
secondary motion. Thank
move
you,
it.
Nora.
Move it to the curriculum committee, which, by the way, is meeting next week, right? So, that's a motion, is that seconded to move to curriculum committee? Okay, so, sorry, there's a secondary.
We just had a lot.
So the main motion on the floor is to accept the MOU
As written.
as written. Cheryl did the first and Jeanette did the second, but now there's a secondary motion,
I'll second the secondary.
which is germane to the first motion. Move to curriculum committee, the next curriculum committee, the conversation of the MOU. And that was made by Sandra and seconded by Jonathan. Okay, so we do need to vote on the subsidiary motion, the secondary motion. We can also make another, okay. All right, so, that is on the floor, it's been seconded. Any further discussion about moving it to curriculum committee next week? Okay, all in favor to moving it to curriculum committee? How many of us are on this, sitting here right now? 8? So 5 out of, what? 5 out of 8 would have to pass. Okay, all in favor of moving it to curriculum committee? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? Abstention? Oh, 2 opposed? 3 opposed, that's 8. Okay, 5 to 3, this motion passes. We're gonna move the MOU to further discussion of curriculum committee next week, Barb. Okay. That's still timely. Pearson drone competition team field trip request.
yes, I am, the drone competition team is requesting permission to travel out of state. They are going to go to a drone competition in Oxford, Massachusetts. Their parents will be going with them. Their parents will be driving their own children. They will be departing on January 13th at 5:30 in the morning, returning at 7 p.m. Rachel Manzer will be in attendance with them. So I'm asking that you please give them permission to take the drone children out of state. They will be going on January 13th. Their schedule is on the next page for you. They did have a competition not this past weekend, 2 weekends ago, and they won the Inspire Award at their last competition. So they are doing a nice job whenever they are going to their competitions.
How many kids?
There's 6 of them? Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I'll make a motion. Anybody interested in making a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Cheryl to approve the field trip request.
I'll second.
Jeanette, any further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous, Barb, for the drone competition,
Thank you.
8 to 0. Grant submission form.
Yes, so you heard me speak about this during our reading discussion. So I'd like the board to please consider approval for application for the 2024 ARP ESSER Small Town Right to Read Grant. This due date for this grant is December 29th. The time frame for the usage of funds needs to be by October 30th of 2024. It would be associated with kindergarten to grade 3 reading in the amount of $150,000, and it would be used to purchase professional development, an approved K-3 comprehensive reading program, and substitute teacher coverage to support ongoing teacher training.
Now, is this a matching grant or?
It
just
is
direct
not,
grant?
it's a direct grant.
When we get our monies, is there anything that is attached to it?
Just a lot of paperwork for Nancy.
Okay.
So that's part of that paperwork for Nancy. So there are
Sorry,
it's a lot of paperwork for Nancy.
I'd make a motion to give you permission to apply for the grant.
I'll
Sure.
second.
Okay, second by Shane DeChamp. First by Cheryl, second by Shane. All in favor of the grant, 150,000? That's unanimous, 8-0.
And I will apply for the full 150. You know, I hope that they give us 150. It's never a guarantee.
ARPA, 51,000.
Yes, so again, I mentioned this during our reading waiver. This is permission to apply for the 23 ARPA Right to Read grant. Due date is December 29th. Timeframe for the usage of funds is by June 30th of '24. This would be in the amount of $51,000, and the purchasing would be to purchase the state-approved comprehensive reading program. So this would just be one budget line item just for $51,000 towards the purchase of the actual program.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Shane DeChamp, any second? Second. Okay, sorry, Cheryl, I heard her first. All in favor? This is unanimous.
Thank you.
To approve the application. Okay. All right, next item is Sole Source, West State.
All right, so you're gonna test my mechanical knowledge right now, okay? All right, so this is a sole source for West State Mechanical. So when they put in the air conditioning units in the front of Pearson School, shortly thereafter, we had an electrical surge from Eversource. So apparently, I learned through this process, when the power goes into a building, apparently the power ebbs and flows throughout the course of the day. I was unaware of that. I'm not clearly an electrician. So when it did that, apparently this surge of electricity caused a malfunction in our brand new air conditioning system that we had just installed. So that caused a problem. Thank God it was under warranty. They came out, they swapped out the parts that were damaged during that electrical situation. It has since been rectified. However,
Sorry, West
the
State?
company, West State,
Okay.
and the company that they used with the air conditioner. All under warranty, no cost to us. That
Okay.
situation has been handled. However, what they are recommending to prevent this situation from happening going forward is a product that will monitor the electrical current that flows into the air conditioning, and essentially it acts, in my very layman terms, as a surge strip kind of monitoring where it will cut off the power to the electrical system and say, there's too much, there's not a little, whatever amount of current that's going to this system needs to be shut off because it's going to damage parts beyond this point. In my very layman's way of explaining electrical systems and mechanicals right now. Am I doing okay, Tori, on this? Okay.
It's a big surge suppressor.
Yes.
You need to purchase a
So
big surge
there's
suppressor.
3 of them because there's 3 of these units that are going in out there. So in order to protect these systems beyond their warranted life, it is recommended that we put these rather large surge protection systems on this air conditioning, since we've already experienced this once. So we are seeking, it is $6,270 to have a sole source for West State Mechanical to be able to put these surge systems in place.
I'm surprised Eversource wouldn't supply these to us, seeing as it is their surging that is causing our problems.
Make the motion to accept the money for the surge suppressor.
Tori, second by Jonathan.
What's our threshold for bid? For the need to go out to bid? Because I know some schools it's 10,000, some it's.
So we have different levels depending upon what the number is. Nancy, do you want to clarify?
So we followed the same protocol that the town does.
And then we do this particular form, which is called a sole source, when we have a particular vendor or a particular product that we want to make sure is aligned to our particular system so that we don't get different products that don't match up with our particular systems.
Okay, so we have a first, Tori, Jonathan, second, all in favor of accepting the sole source. Unanimous, okay?
Thank you.
8-0. Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment. Okay, so at this time, 3 minutes are allotted to each speaker. Board Policy 1120, no board employee, student, or community member shall be defamed within a public comment. Are there any persons who wish to comment? Are there any persons who wish to comment? Any persons wish to comment? Seeing none, moving on. Item 14, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Cheryl and Tori, all in favor of adjournment at 8:55 PM. That is unanimous, 8-0. Thank you, everyone.